Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm the president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 192 of the funnel. Sales managers learn how to engage sales recruiters. As always, head on over to alignment-group.com / the funnel. I almost forgot there. And subscribe to the funnel, and we'll send you the show notes. You don't need to take notes. You can go for a jog or get on the treadmill or the elliptical while you're listening to this podcast and learn all you can learn, and then head on over to the website and subscribe, and we'll send you those show notes so you have built-in notes for our podcasts. Okay. So I decided to do this podcast because I do workshops and training classes on hiring sales reps. Take them through the whole process, everything from recruiting salespeople to evaluating and assessment, the interview process, scoring them out, and then ultimately hiring somebody. Then we do onboarding. And I get a lot of questions about recruiters. And I'm going to tell you that if you can find your own reps and you build a base and a program to always be recruiting and keep people sort of in a file and having the conversations, even if you don't need somebody right now, you say, look, I don't have a position open, but let's have a conversation. That's great. And I think you should do that. And we talk about that. But I'm also realistic enough to know that people get busy and they decide they want to use recruiters. I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't stray 1 inch from the sales hiring process and the onboarding process. And I wouldn't allow that to happen. But if someone said to me, I really need to use recruiters because time issues, et cetera, and we have it in the budget, I'm not going to tell them not to do that. I'm going to tell them how to do it, because I think that's the big issue here. That oftentimes when sales managers and VPs of sales and business owners engage recruiters, they sort of let them do their own thing. It's like bringing someone in to finish your basement or add an addition onto your house and saying, look, this is a general idea what I'm looking for. Go ahead and do what you want. I don't think you would do that. I think you want to be very specific about what it looks like. You want to have maybe an architect draw out some plans. You want to pick the flooring and the paint and the tile or whatever it is that you're doing in that room or that remodel. It's the same here, right? So I wanted to put a podcast together specifically focused on this to help you learn how to engage recruiters. So here are the 4 things you'll learn today: the good and the bad, clear rules of engagement, know what you're looking for, and then finally, compensation. So let's talk about the good and the bad. Like anything else, like salespeople, not all recruiters are the same. So if you're going to engage a recruiter, the thing you start with is developing a list, right? A list of potential recruiters. And I would look for recommendations. I wouldn't start calling the recruiters first. I'd call around to other business owners, other people in the same position that you're in, and say, hey, who do you use for a recruiter and how do you like them? How did you evolve the relationship? What do they do for you? What don't you like that they do? Get the skinny on them. Get the deep cover on them before you do anything. Check out their social profiles. Check out their website. Look for success stories, people they've hired. Hey, I came from a recruiter and I've been here for 10 years. I came from a recruiter and I've been here for 5 years. Okay. So do your due diligence on the front end. And believe it or not, people don't. Say, who do you use for a recruiter? So-and-so. I'm going to give them a call. Well, wait a second. Maybe they don't do things the same way you do, the person you asked. So you need to ask them some questions. How do you engage with a recruiter? What do you do with them? What are the rules here? How do they find people for you? Without giving away the farm, give me some idea of the pay structure. You want to ask the questions of the people you're asking the recommendations for as much as you want to ask about the recruiters, because they may do it completely different. So if you're just going off a yeah, they're the greatest, without any context, that's difficult. So I would do a heavy amount of homework ahead of selecting a recruiter. I'd start with developing the list. I'd start with websites. I'd look at any information that I can do research on myself. Then I would reach out to colleagues. I'd post it on to maybe send out emails, maybe to some groups in LinkedIn, however you want to reach out. Maybe you have groups that you belong to, Rotary Club, whatever, business clubs. Ask the question, who do you use? Why do you use them? What's the benefit? What do you get out of it? Do you have any success stories? How many people on your sales team now came through that recruiter? How long have they been with you? Okay, so you get it. You want to ask a lot of questions, and you want to build the case before you interview the recruiters. Then I'd interview the recruiters. I'd go through the process of the conversation. How do you work? What, et cetera, et cetera. Who do you work with? Give me some companies. Can you provide me with references? Can you talk about some of your success stories? Can you give me your expectations? What you expect from me? And you're writing all this down. You're interviewing them like you would interview a sales candidate. Once you establish that you want to work with a specific recruiter, clear rules of engagement are what's necessary. Now, I'm going to talk about this because lately I've had communication conversations with multiple people in my realm. That includes clients, family members, children. Communication is the cornerstone of anything, right? Any good, positive experience. You need to communicate clearly. So when I ask a question and you give me a general answer, I'm not being difficult when I dig deeper and I look for specifics. I'm doing that because I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. So a simple analogy on that, and I'll take it out of the business context for a moment, is if I say to one of my kids, I get these notices from school, from my middle school and high school, it gives me progress reports, and I get homework notifications. This is the world we live in. They can't breathe because we take full advantage of the technology that they take full advantage of, right? So I get an email and it says, hey, this is what your daughter's homework is for the night. Now, if I say to her, you have a lot of homework tonight, and she says, I don't have a lot of homework tonight, who's right? Neither one of us. Because we haven't defined what a lot of homework means. So then you're getting into this argument over whether you have a lot of homework or not, whether it's you're going to do it and when you're going to do it. It's ridiculous. So how about trying this on for size? This is the email I received. These are the 5 homework assignments. Can we touch on each one of them? And you tell me where you are, if you've completed it, and if you haven't, when you're going to complete it. That's a pretty clear communication style. Here's the math. This is the expectation. Did you do it? Yes. Okay. Can I see it? Sure. There it is. It's done. Did you check it? Yep. Okay. Next. Instead of, hey, you have a lot of homework. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Or did you do your homework? Well, yes. You didn't ask me if I did all of it. And I know I'm being kind of funny with this, but that moves into the adult world. That moves into the business world. I'm going to help you find the best candidates. Great. I don't like this candidate. Well, that's the best. Have you defined the best? You haven't. So clear rules of engagement are what's necessary here. I want to know. As I take people through the interview process and we go through a resume and I read things like developed this program to do this, this, and this, I'm going to say, tell me how you developed that program. And they're going to give me a 30-second answer. And I'm going to keep asking questions until I get to the root of exactly what they did. Because develop a program sounds great, and we divine it in our head. We're like, oh, yeah, it's awesome. They developed this program. Well, what did it take to develop that program? I don't know. I want specifics. So here I want clear rules of engagement. How will we work together? What's the submittal process? What does it look like from your end? How do you submit candidates to us? What's the expectation? Out of your pool of candidates, when can I expect to start receiving them? And how many do I get at a time? Do you send me one? Do you really look? I mean, is it 1 a week? Is it 2 a week? How do you evaluate candidates before you send them to me? What do you do? And I want to know the specifics. Well, we do an interview with them. We have a conversation, what they're looking for. And if it feels like it's a good fit, we send them over to you. Okay, let me back up. When you do that interview, how long does the interview take? 5 minutes. Okay. And what do you talk about? What they want to do. Okay. And so I'm a 5-minute interview? Really? That's a little short for somebody you're going to think's a fit for me. Or they could say something else. We look at the resume and we decide if it's a fit. Let me ask you a question. If there's a mistake on the resume or something's not worded properly, what do you do with that? We send it back to them and we ask them to rewrite it. Do you do any resume editing for them to help them clean up their resume? Yes, that's part of the process. Okay. You see what I'm doing here? I'm trying to get the information out of them on how they work with not only the candidate, but how they're going to work with me. So if they're doing resume editing, who are they working for, right? How do they view the evaluation process? We send them over to you, you interview them. If you like them, you hire them, we get paid. Okay. And if I refuse a candidate based on what I read on the resume, or I refuse a candidate based on an assessment, or I refuse a candidate based on an interview, what happens from there? Well, we'll take a look at it. Sometimes I'll come back to you and I'll make my recommendations. Okay. Why? What does that look like? How do you make those recommendations? And why would you try to make a recommendation to hire somebody that we've refused? What's the logic behind that? If I spent 2 hours in an interview and I don't want to hire them, what's the logic? And I've just touched on a couple of things, but I want to know exactly how they engage with us. I get the contractual stuff. You sign the contract. This is and we're going to talk about the fee structure. But I really want to know what that's going to be like with you. Tell me about the other members of your team. Do they participate in this? And how does that work? Do they go through you? Do they come directly to me? No, we do a meeting once a week. We lay out the client's needs so everybody knows what each client is looking for. And if they find somebody, they go directly to you. They let me know they're working with you, but we know we have some candidates in the pipeline. Okay. And are they going to follow these same rules of engagement? This is how we submit. This is how you evaluate. This is the refusal. Once they give you what they do, then you need to put in place what you're going to do and then come to a meeting of the minds. This is how we're going to manage it. This is how we're going to engage together. It's important because there are recruiters that will try to sell you on somebody. I don't want to be sold on somebody. I want to make my own decision. You send the resumes over to me, and I'll determine if I want them to take the assessment. And I'm going to tell you right up front, assessment thumbs down, don't bother, we're not interviewing. And then they give you the whole song and dance about that. Fine. Let's walk through the assessment. Let's walk through my process. But I'm telling you right now, that's not going to happen. Can you work with me in that environment? Yes. Okay. I don't want to go back and forth in emails. I'm surprised. They've been so successful at their other position. This doesn't make sense to me. Okay, we got to get that off the table in the beginning because I will know about somebody's success or failure as I go through the interview process. Success is what they've written on their resume. I need to prove that out. And part of that process is the evaluation. Can you live with that? Clear rules of engagement. In order to have clear rules of engagement, you need to know what you are looking for. Don't let them drive what you're looking for. I need somebody that can make cold calls. Okay, that's pretty narrow focus. There's like nothing else. They don't need to do anything else except make cold calls. So I'm joking here, but the truth is you have to have a real good understanding of who it is that you're looking for. A specific job outline, the profile, the experience, the skill set, exactly what is it that I'm looking for. And I don't want to deviate from this. What if I have a really good candidate and they don't fit the experience and the skill set? Would you consider them? No. And I say that because you're opening Pandora's box. You're opening them the opportunity to send every Tom, Dick, and Harry over to you. So what you want to do is lay out, this is the job outline, this is the profile. We help profile for the assessment, so that's good. We can lay out a job outline, a job description. We can put the experience level. And I might say, listen, 0 to 3 years experience. If they don't have any experience, I'm good with that. The skill set I'm looking for is here, and it'll come out in the evaluation if I decide to evaluate them. Here's the job outline. Here's the profile. If they're interested in it, and they have no experience, they're coming out of college, send the resume over. I'll take a look at it. We might put them through an assessment. If the assessment comes back that this could be problematic or difficult, then I probably move on. And I don't want to have an argument over it. So you know exactly what it is that I need. You know what I'm looking for. We have clear rules of engagement. We know exactly what it is that we're looking for. We know how we're going to evaluate, and we explain that to them. And there's no sort of negotiation on that. If someone doesn't pass the thumbs up or the worthy of consideration in our assessment, then we don't even think about talking to them. If they're not recommended, we don't talk to them. Bottom line. And there's other things. They don't meet they've been in business for 10 years, but this skill set and these things that they're listed here, they don't fit for me. Or I look at the resume and I say, listen, I've had recruiters send me over resumes and tell me that 3 times in this person's career, the company downsized and they lost their job. That's impossible. I shouldn't say impossible. That's improbable. Okay? Especially for a highly successful sales rep. That's the only thing driving your revenue. And you're going to downsize and get rid of them? Doesn't make sense to me. Okay? So I might say no based on that. I might look at the resume and say, you know what? This doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to move forward. So I know what I'm looking for. We have the rules of engagement. Everybody's on the same page. This takes work. It's not just, hey, I'm looking for a rep who can make a lot of calls, 1 to 2 years experience. What do you charge? You're setting yourself up for failure or a huge battle every time they send a candidate over you don't like, or every time someone goes through an assessment and they get a thumbs down. Now what do? Now you're arguing. You want to put all that aside. And I will take the time to walk you through the process. I will take the time to walk you through the assessment. But I will not interview somebody that comes back not recommended. It's not happening. And I don't care what you tell me about experience. So let's move past that. I know that's the easy one to talk about. But my point is, you lay all the ground rules and they're willing to accept it and you're willing to accept it, then you move forward. If not, you find yourself another recruiter. All right, so let's talk about compensation and how they're compensated. And I'm gonna say this: who are they working for? Right? Who are they working for? Are they working for you or are they working for the candidate? Well, technically they're working for you because you're paying for it. But they don't get paid until they place a candidate. So are they really working for the candidate? I think there's a lot of push-pull there with them. Part of it is the fee structure. You give someone a percentage of the compensation. Basically what you're saying to them is, I need to drive the compensation up. When you give them a percentage of the compensation, listen to how they talk to you. You're not paying enough. Your salary structure isn't where it needs to be. I have experience. I know what you should be paying in this market, in this field. Great. Can you support that with data and documentation? Well, I just know what other clients are paying. Well, that's not data or documentation if you can't share it. If you can't share your data to prove to me that this is where the salary structure should be, I'm starting to think you want the salary structure higher because it's easier to place candidates, A. B, you get paid more. That's not a healthy relationship. Should I negotiate a flat fee? I think it's not a bad idea. Flat fee, bottom line. Here's a flat fee. Work it out. This is what we pay for the job. So it doesn't really matter. Right? They're not worried about that. They're just worried about getting the right candidate in front of you. And if we get the right candidate and they stay, well, that's good. Some people negotiate an out, like a replacement fee, if someone doesn't work out. That's a tough call because if you don't have a really strong onboarding program in place, it could be your fault people leave. So if I'm a recruiter, I'm asking questions of you about that. So if they're coming back to you and saying, hey, what kind of onboarding program do you have? What do you have to help me do my job? I mean, if you're asking questions and they're asking questions, that's a good question for them to ask. Do you have an onboarding program? What guarantee do I have that they're going to get what they need to be successful? If a recruiter asks you that, they're a good recruiter. They get it. If they don't, and they're willing to negotiate that, then let them negotiate that, replacement, and that's fine. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be successful without an onboarding program, so you should work on that. So the point about the compensation is put it in a place where they're going to be working for you. It's not perfect because they're trying to place as many candidates they can in the shortest amount of time. The more they place, the more money they make. So if they can sit with a candidate and interview them and prep them for talking to you, this is what John's like, and this is how you deal with John, and this is the conversation you have with John. This is what he likes to hear. If you're that predictable, they're going to do that. You need to fix your resume. Your resume needs to say this. Not lie, but make it cleaner. I don't care if they do that. Send it over. I'm going to peel back the layers on the resume. I'm going to get down to 100% brass tacks. And eventually, they're going to figure out. They just need to send good candidates over to me because I'm not going to accept the BS lines. Developed a strong program for building XYZ. Great. What does develop mean? Tell me how you did that. Start from the beginning. Then you get a 30-second answer. Bang, I'm coming back. It's more than a 30-second answer. It was like a 5-minute answer. So let's keep digging. Who are they working for? So the compensation really is about getting as close as you can to a good working relationship. And I think at the end of the day, this is all about, I want to say control. You need to control this relationship, not the other way around. Recruiters tend to be very strong-willed, very strong personalities, and they try to control the relationship. They have a bit of an advantage because you have 500 other things to do during the day. This is what they do. So they're going to push their candidates. They're going to push their program. They're going to push their process on you. I would push back if I had a really good process. And I wouldn't engage with recruiters if I didn't. I need a really strong hiring process, a really good evaluation or assessment, and I need a strong onboarding program. And I can sit in front of a recruiter and say, this is what I'm going to get. Here's what's going to happen. You're not going to hire 100 people every 6 months for me because we're not going to have the kind of turnover you experience in other organizations. But here's what you're going to benefit from. You're going to get very happy salespeople who are going to come back and say to their friends, you should use that recruiting agency. They placed me with the company I'm with now, and I love it. They did all this great stuff for me. They hired me. They onboarded me. This I've never had this before. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm home. So they're going to push you over to that recruiter as much as they're going to recommend the company. Sometimes they say, hey, come work for us. And then you get a direct connection. And you don't have to pay the recruiter. But if you're going to work with a recruiter, you better do your homework ahead of time. As always, subscribe to The Funnel, alignment-group.com/The Funnel. You can find us on Facebook. My Twitter handle's @ShayJohnR. LinkedIn, Google+. Email me, jshay@alignment-group.com. Our website is alignment-group.com. I love getting suggestions and feedback, and I do get them. I take them into consideration. As always, thanks for subscribing to The Funnel, and keep filling the funnel.